You're an unfriendly group of devotees here. Let's see how friendly you are. Come closer, please. Yeah, that'd be great. That's a switch right here. Fantastic. How many of you chant Hare Krishna every day? Me too. How many of you would like to chant Hare Krishna in a qualitative way better than you chanted yesterday and today? Great. Me too. And one of the obstacles of chanting better is inattention, right? The mind is somewhere and the mouth is somewhere else. You're not a friendly group, I can tell. So one of the obstacles in quality chanting is inattention. And one of the rituals of the Hare Krishna movement is about to happen. So there's different things that cause inattention, and it's planning the future or being in anxiety about the past. Anything but be present with the holy name. Because that's mode of goodness. And planning the future and lamenting over the past, mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. They're very strong. And the past carries with it negative emotion. The regrettable parts. There's a lot of that. So I want to give a little background of this presentation. Do any of you take part in the monthly Sankirtan Festival and go and distribute books? The monthly Sankirtan Festival? I don't see any hands. Okay. It's kind of like Compliments of Vaisheshika Prabhu. It's become part of the Hare Krishna movement in US and Canada. The monthly Sankirtan Festival. It's got an acronym, MSF. Monthly Sankirtan Festival. So devotees that have engaged in the monthly Sankirtan Festival, especially in the summer months, they've understood that the mission of Srila Prabhupada was not to create a place of worship for the non-resident Indians now living in America. That's what ISKCON in America has become. But was that the intention of our founder Acharya? Or was the intention of our founder Acharya to come to America and reach the hearts and the minds of the people that are other than the non-resident Indians in America, as well as those that are, and bring them to Krishna Bhakti? So there are some devotees that have understood it's option B, not only option A. I mean, the Indian families in America, they're really important people. And those that aren't are also really important people. And that's primarily the reason why Srila Prabhupada came. I mean, you all know Malati, and Malati has shared the following. She was one of the 6 devotees, 3 American couples that went to England, where 2 leading sannyasis of Bhaktisiddhanta came up with nothing. Those young American grahastas went to England and established Krishna consciousness in a big way. So she shared this one time when Prabhupada was visiting in England. There was a public program, and guess who showed up? The non-resident Indians living in England. And Prabhupada conducted the program, and then he admonished the devotees, I didn't send you here to simply reach the non-resident Indians in England. You know, go to the Bhaktivedanta Manor. What do you find? Look around. You find what you find here. I pardon my being so direct, maybe a little confrontational besides direct, but we're underperforming. We're doing some really good things, and we're underperforming. Yes? We could be doing better, yes? Of course. And one of those areas we can be doing better is the intention for which and we connect with the intention of the founder Acharya as a live wire. It's high voltage. It's very powerful. So, some devotees that engage in book distribution, by design, over the last 2 summers, they've decided to go to places where there's events, where it's American people, or other than, the Indian grocery store to distribute books, or the Hindu temple to distribute books. They go to places where there are going to be Western people. And they found that Western people commonly would ask, do you have any books on meditation? And that's a marketing flag. Like, hey, there's an interest in meditation. And there's an interest in meditation. So our outreach devotees got together and came up with now it's in the 4th set, modules of 4 parts on the art of meditation. The first one is like, how do you meditate? And not just, mantra, but how do you meditate? What is it, and what are different methods, and what's effective, and most effective is sounds, and there's, of the sounds, the Hare Krishna mantra is most effective. Just a little sharing with you. Right here in Michigan, on Saturday, 2 sessions, morning, afternoon session in Grand Rapids, part of Michigan, right? And there were 2, there was an American couple, and then there was a young fellow named Cal from Grand Rapids, or nearby Grand something near Grand Rapids. So we had one-on-one discussion. I'm preparing you for the topic. He said, I'd like to learn more about mantra meditation. So the door was open. He said, I grew up in a Christian family, and I was into it. I didn't use the language. And then it kind of drifted and did my education, like many of us drifted when we did our education. And then when I came up for air again, I started looking into Eastern religion, and I became very interested in Buddhism, and I've kind of been an eclectic, a little bit of the Japanese Zen, a little bit of mainland China Buddhism, and then I came across the Hare Krishna people, the Bhagavad Gita, and I like Bhagavad Gita. I haven't really started mantra meditation. Can you share something with me about mantra meditation? I mean, like, not just the doors open, but the truck entrance, and come on and drive in and unload your stuff. So, because he's Western, those of us that have been trained in the West in education, there's a strong conviction in science. If science says, it's got to be true. So I just shared with him 3-4 things of what science says about mantra meditation. And the end of the discussion was, can you send me those articles? And I think I want to start mantra meditation. The clue is, find out what's of interest to somebody, and then nourish that interest. Feed them something that shows you've heard what's interesting to them, and you give what's interesting to them, and then you have a relationship where you find out what their need, interest, and concern is, and you're giving resources to help that. In Prabhupada's words, the morning walk in Vrindavan, preaching means you see a spark, and he moved his hand like this, you fan the spark, and the spark becomes a flame. That's preaching. Really simple. And then he said, the expert preacher that takes the flame, it becomes a big blaze. So we don't have to be big blazers. We just have to, find a spark and fan the spark. The meditation is a spark. It's an interest. So after the first 4-part, we had we advertised and reached out to different audiences where we knew it would be Western people that we knew, and they did their social networking thing, and health food stores, and yoga studios, and this and that. The art of meditation. Very, very much appreciated. So now, where do we go next? Well, another thing that's of real importance to people today is dealing with negative emotions. I mean, there's a lot to say, but it's an industry in America. In the medical field alone, it's the fastest growing field. In the pharmaceutical industry, it's 90% of the pharmaceuticals. That's a lot. I mean, that's what people in the pharmaceutical industry say. New things of trying to deal with negative depression and suicide rate, and all kinds of statistics about that problem. And they have found, researchers have found, that meditation is significantly helpful to reduce negative emotion and depression in particular. So that's a point of interest. So this 4-part series was created to help new people that don't know so much about Hare Krishna movement to appreciate mantra meditation, because it helps overcome negative emotion. It's a spark and fan the spark principle. So as I'm presenting this, 3 things. Please consider the principle of find the spark and fan the spark for outreach to the hearts and the minds of the audience that we're not presently reaching so well. It's not just this one thing, but it's a principle. Try to consider as you're hearing this presentation principle. It's a big problem in China. It's a big interest in China. I did this very same presentation in China in the Saturday, Sunday workshop for 8 hours, in which I'm going to do, in a summary way in a short time this evening. I'm doing this so that you'll connect more with the message, and more than in one ear and out the other ear at the end of the day, hopefully. Another is, I did, here, watch this little overcoming. Here's the 4 parts of what came after the Art of Meditation. It's a workshop. And while in Grand Rapids, we did part 1 and part 3. So if you're interested in, and we're going to do this evening part 4. So I'm going to do a little summary this evening of part 1 and part 3. Part 2 is basically a japa retreat topic. You know, how do you chant japa? How do you do it? And how do you do it with some quality? For a new audience, so they know what mantra meditation is. But the negative emotion part is part 1, I'm going to summarize. Part 3, I'm going to summarize. And then we'll pay attention especially to the part 1, part 3, because we're going to be asking you to do part 4 tonight. That is a little breakout session on depression, anger, and anxiety, one of those 3. So listen carefully, because it'll help you hear better as we go along. What we're going to do at the end is take 20 to 30 minutes in 3 different groups, so you can think about which group you would like to be part of, and speak about the following. Think of an experience that you have, or somebody who is very dear to you has been through, where there's either depression, anger, or anxiety, and bearing that in mind, 3 groups breaking out, someone reporting back to the main group what the discussion went. Of the things that you've heard this evening, this is just summary stuff, what resources might you bring to that situation that you've been through, or someone who's dear to you, to help them get on the other side of negative emotion? And why? Why is this one your one of choice? Or a combination of things. So you have to listen carefully to get that. And then the second question, which we'll be asking you to discuss, is going forward in time. What tools or resources or facilities might you improve your skill in to help you with your own situation of negative emotion, or someone that's dear to you that struggles with a negative emotion, with it connected to a particular event or whatever it is. It's skill improvement. It's practical. So you have to listen to the summary parts to do the final parts. And our host over there, our enthusiastic host over there, oh, enthusiastic host, please come forward. Our enthusiastic host here is going to have to think about where the 3 discussion groups during the breakout session can sit, so they can, concentrate and have fun, and not disturb everybody else. So I need an answer now, but he's going to come up with the answer. Okay. So, are you ready to go?
Yes.
The train is about to pull out of the station. You know where it's going. You have some idea of some of the stops along the way. So, be very attentive, because it'll help you in the ways that have already been mentioned. I don't have to repeat. So, yeah. Where's our sound man? Harish? Could you make an arrangement somehow or another that the Grand Rapids Part 1 and Part 3, whoever would like to can view it?
Sure.
So I don't need to know how you're going to do it, but he'll make sure you, if you want, you get the detail, because it's just going to be a summary. And it may help you. And it may help you help others, and it may help you in your outreach to touch the hearts and the minds of the Western population that we're needing some help with. Okay. Understanding negative emotion. Negative emotion is something that we all know because it's part of the world. In the world of duality, wherever there's this, there's that. It's right in Bhagavad Gita, and it's within our experience. So there's happiness and there's distress. And when there's distress, and you become focused on that negative emotion, either the cause or the emotion itself, it's like being in prison. There's a person who's her field. Depression is a prison where you are both the suffering prisoner and the cruel jailer. I think I'm good. It's just another piece of furniture. You can give me a table, but my lap works. That's why it's called a laptop, right? Negative emotion can be like a jail. One can feel very, very disempowered, and it spirals down and down and down, commonly. It feeds into more negative emotion. Here's a study of consciousness. I don't know exactly the measure, probably brainwave frequencies and things. But higher consciousness and lower consciousness. And when consciousness is raised, everybody that does meditation knows you approach a place of higher consciousness. You may not be able to stay there, but meditation does that. And mantra meditation helps you stay there. That's why it's good, or better than good. Some appreciation about the chart. One might think that fear is at the bottom. And I say that because there's 4 animal propensities, and the strongest of them is fear. The other animal propensities, eating, sleeping, mating, if one is engaged in any one of those other 3 and a fearful situation comes, you stop them. You attend to protection and fear. But it shows that even lower than fear is shame and guilt in terms of lower consciousness. There's a lot to say, but there isn't time to say it all. And then, reason is higher, love is higher, gratitude is even higher than love. That's interesting. And then, there's enlightenment. So as consciousness is raised, meditation helps to raise consciousness. Then the lower consciousness, the negative emotions connected with lower consciousness, because those negative emotions cover our consciousness, like the cloud covers the light of the sun. There's a discussion, where do emotions come from? And those that study it say it begins on 3 different levels. Just like a computer, there's hardware, software, and the computer operator. So the hardware is physical, mental, and spiritual. Sources of negative emotion. And we gave examples in Grand Rapids of each of those 3. And emotions are triggered, those who study this as their profession. It's generally combinations of situations external to us and impressions from our past experience. There's a nice Sanskrit term, antakarana. Some of you that have read Prabhupada's books, you know what that phrase means. It's a specific description of the mind. Anta is within. And karana, it's a cause, a causation, so there's impressions, and those impressions create a certain tendency. Just like, for example, supposing somebody nearly died in a fire, or in their previous life they did die in a fire, or someone near and dear to them died in a fire. And then they just see a match. And this negative emotion gets triggered. And they panic. They become totally fearful and gripped by fear. It's not connected, it's connected to a past experience, but match isn't something that's not life and death threatening. But it's totally irrational. The external appearance of the flame it stirs, it triggers an impression of the past. And the parasympathetic nervous system takes over and it's panic. Extreme negative emotion. So it doesn't have to be something so extreme, it's just describing a principle. Or situations that are external to us. And we're responding perhaps in a negative way, but we don't have to respond in a negative way. That's a very important lesson about negative emotion. There are situations external to you that you can't do anything about. Like, in Michigan in the winter it gets cold. It's going to get cold. You can wish it otherwise, but it's going to get cold. Now you can make some choices what you're going to do about it. You can leave Michigan, that's a choice. But you can do other things. You have free will is intrinsic to the living entity. So when circumstances external to you come your way, you're walking down the path of life, and something unexpected comes. And it may trigger a negative emotion. Now you have a choice how you're going to respond to the situation and the negative emotion. I'm elaborating a little bit, but I think it's important. And I have to be conscious of time at the same time. There's a really fantastic book. If those of you that like fantastic books, you can write it down. It's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankel. 1946. It was written by a Jewish psychiatrist who survived a Nazi concentration camp. Now that caused negative emotion. And it was a circumstance out of his control. And he speaks about how to deal with the circumstances beyond your control and the negative emotion connected with the circumstance beyond your control. And one of the things that it's been reprinted something like 22 times. One of the reasons it's really skinny, and it's really easy to read. That's one of the reasons. But within it, there's some very potent, powerful, pithy statements that people that do counseling refer people to it. I'm referring you to it. I'm not a counselor, but I'm a Hare Krishna guy that feels it's important for people to know. You have free will when circumstances that are outside of you, that you have no control over. You can whine and complain. You can do lots of other things that aren't going to help the situation at all. Make the negative emotion get worse. But you have choices that you can make. That's a power no one can take from you. Even Krishna won't take it from you. And the circumstance can't take it from you. You have the freedom to choose how you're going to respond. And if you don't think that you have freedom, you're in prison. There's this discussion about impressions within the mind. So there's a blank TV screen, the inner television, and sometimes how you perceive what's outside of you doesn't even match what's really outside of you. Like this example, here's a little match, and there's this read is death, life and death. It's not a proper read of the situation. So using that as an example, we're not always reading reality correctly. And circumstances be disproportionate from or completely different from external perception. And when that read of the external situation keeps moving, it becomes like an avalanche. It's a term that people in this field call the avalanche effect. The negative emotion builds more negative emotion, builds more negative emotion, builds more negative emotion, and you're dead. So lots of things to say. You can look at the video of what we discussed in Grand Rapids. But the idea is there in Bhagavad Gita. No surprise, the avalanche effect. Contemplating the objects of the senses, you have some thought about that object of the sense, and with that thought, then there's some desire or some emotion. I like it or I don't like it. I like this smell, I don't like this smell. I like this person, I don't like this person. Something. But, the duality thing, the emotion thing. And if you get really absorbed in the emotion, it can become an obsession. I got to get one of those, or I got to get rid of that. I got to change the situation, or else I'm not going to find any happiness. I got to change the situation. Obsession. You lose your power of freedom, and you lose your power of discretion when you get into that zone. And then from there, it can lead to destructive habit or behavior. I mean, just this shooting thing in Texas. The guy got fired, and a few hours later he kills 12 people, or whatever the number is. And before that, he called the FBI and called the police and said, I'm going to do it. And it led to destructive action. So there's different forms of destructive. It can be self-destructive. It can be all kinds of things. Our health can deteriorate. One can turn to addiction. There's all kinds of destructive action that follow this avalanche effect. Or just simply, chronic depression. So one of the lessons is knowledge and detachment. Knowledge that's proportionate to what the reality outside you is, and you're different than that emotion. And you can step back with detachment, and you're the observer of the emotion. You can decide what we're going to do about the emotion instead of the emotion taking over. And you thinking, I'm the emotion. I'm the mind. I'm the feeling in the mind. That's me. I'm angry. I'm sad. Oh. The intelligence, when there's detachment from the emotion and you understand who you are, then intelligence can act to redirect your thoughts. So here's a little video created by a teenager, and making alignment of body, mind, and heart to connect with that place of higher consciousness. This is to help people understand how to effectively engage in meditation. Here we go. What happened? Three gates. The idea of meditation is alignment of the body, the mind, and the heart to connect with what the goal of meditation means. It's taking us to this place of higher consciousness, Vrindavan. And there we are in a place of higher consciousness. And in that place of higher consciousness, those negative emotions of the internal realm are far behind you. So this is some introduction to mantra meditation. It requires internal purity, but the sacred sound vibrations help you connect with that place of purity, that soul of who you really are. And it takes some practice. It's not just a notional thing. So that's a summary of part one, understanding negative emotions and a little touching on mantra meditation and how it helps. So remember, at the end we're going to be asking you 2 questions in your group. So please pay attention, especially now navigating through negative emotions. The details you'll be made available to you, the presentation in Grand Rapids. This is a little summary. There's 4 keys to overcoming negative emotion, and they're powers that are within you. You don't have to go to something, to the Kmart or somewhere. It's already with you. Power of acceptance, power of goals, powers of introspection, power of moving forward. So we're going to quickly summarize these. Pay attention, because it may help you with the final exercise. The power of acceptance. The image on the left side is an image of the sunrise. So at night it's dark. Just like when there's a negative emotion, and you feel it. It's a negative space. It feels dark. But the good news is the sun will rise in the morning. It always does. It has never failed to rise. And anything that's in this world that's temporary, it also is temporary. It doesn't fail. Negative emotions are in the category of something in this world. Just like a positive emotion. Eat some ice cream. Or whatever. Something that's a pleasurable experience. And it's over. And then wait a while and you get the flip side. It's just the nature of the place. So when there's a negative emotion, one of the things to do with negative emotion is to recognize, besides it's not you, it's temporary, it's going to go. Now meanwhile, I'm going to make some choices about how I'm going to deal with the negative emotion and the circumstance. It's unhealthy. There's 2 unhealthies. Denying that you have that emotion. When it's cold, in Detroit it's cold, and you feel something about the cold. No. Just, you can do something about the emotion, but you can't necessarily do something about the cold. Then you put a jacket or turn on the heat or something. But don't take the emotion and tuck it under the rug. And then maintaining resentment towards the situation that's the cause of that negative emotion. That's part of the prison. I'm going to tell a little story. Prabhupada story. Many of you, because Detroit's not so far from New Vrindavan, you've been to New Vrindavan for some period of time before they started Satchidananda Swami's Japa retreat. It was the Festival of Inspiration. I stopped going because I called it the Festival of Precipitation, because it would always rain. But there was a keynote speaker every year. His name is Peter Burwash. So that was one of the highlights of the event, is Peter Burwash, doing the Peter Burwash show. And it was his offering to Prabhupada. And one of the stories that he told every time I heard him as a public speaker was many years ago. He doesn't give this detail, but Ambarish Prabhu purchased that temple. It's actually in his name. The property is in his name. But it's an ISKCON temple. And during those days, the devotees didn't have a lot of money. Peter Burwash had some money, not a lot of money. He was a tennis pro. Not only he was a tennis pro, but he was a teacher of tennis pros. He had a tennis pro school. So he had some money, so he donated to the temple $500. And then after some time, somebody that he gave money to ran away with the money. So he had this relationship with Prabhupada because he was, a nice devotee, and Prabhupada received him regularly. So one of those exchanges, and during one of those exchanges, he told Prabhupada what happened. I gave $500 at that time was a lot of money for the Hare Krishna temples. And Prabhupada's reply, he was silent, Prabhupada's reply, something like this: "That's not very good. But please remind me of his words.
Don't blame the instrument of your karma.
Don't blame the instrument of your karma. If you blame the instrument of your karma, you're maintaining resentment towards the instrument of your karma, but it's just the instrument of your karma. It's something you did back there that's bringing the situation. It's the negative thing. It's not like a person stealing money. That's perfectly okay. It's not perfectly okay. But you're bearing some resentment towards the person. It doesn't help the situation at all. It's a negative emotion that doesn't go away. So how are you going to let go of the negative emotion? What was the cause of the event? And you may not know what the cause of the event is when some unfortunate experience comes your way. And there's lots of them. Gosh, with the material world. And it isn't even something that happens to you. It could be somebody that's dear to you. Something very unfortunate happens to somebody dear to you. We all know that one.
Still there.
And so then what? Maintaining resentment towards situations is also unhealthy. We lock ourselves in a prison. First, recognize this temporality. That's this image here. These are just ways that you can help deal with negative emotion. Remember those three categories we're going to break down? Anxiety, depression. What's the third one? Anger. Some people have anger. So this is an image of a tree. Over there is the summer season. Over on this side is the winter season. Oh, son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So, tolerance is also a help for circumstances that are outside of your. So when you're tolerant, your intelligence can be more functional, and you can think, what's a proper behavior or action that I can take given this circumstance. But your intelligence may get covered or shut down or do harmful things otherwise. Mother Teresa. Some people come in our lives as blessings, some come in your life as lessons. So one of the presentations that was made was in China, so it has, you notice the words in Chinese here. And so these are in its ChinaslostPanda.com. So there are social pressures that influence not only people in China, but these are key ones for the Chinese people growing up, having families. Social pressures and social status, which form conceptions around success and failure, inhibit our ability to be open and to accept our life condition and our emotions. So acceptance is a big key. Acceptance is a big key. Say it again. Acceptance is a big key to getting on the other side, because it's nothing you can do about certain external things. You know, your mother-in-law, whatever it is, you may have some, not so happy emotion about mother-in-law. And then it makes the situation worse. It doesn't make the situation better. So we did some role play and some brainstorming on what's the conventional conception of success and failure, and what does it look like, and are we success or failure from the modern conception, and what are the negative emotions connected to that? It impacts our life, and one of the standards of one of the keys is acceptance. Now, there's more to say, but power of goals. An example that's given commonly is a river that flows downstream towards the sea, like Queen Kunti says. So, let me my mind forever flow towards the sea like the Ganges flows towards the sea. Before, for a period of time, there's rocks and other debris and obstacles in the path of the river. But the river keeps flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing, and gradually the obstacles are overcome. So if you have a clear sense of goal, like a river flowing towards the sea, if you have a clear sense of goal, it's empowering. Say it negatively. If you don't have a clear sense of goal, it makes the negative emotion seem bigger than it really is. And the situation, what are you going to do? Goals are powerful. Those Vaisheshika Prabhu visits here, or no? No? No, not yet. When he does, you'll start your monthly Sankirtan festival guaranteed. And one of his sutras is, goals are powerful. And it's true. And we have experimented with this, and it's true. It's true. Once you commit to a goal, practically as soon as you commit to a goal, the intelligence starts to work how to meet the goal. And then you start ruling out things, that's not so good, but this is better, and maybe this resource, maybe this team, I can't do it alone. But without a goal, the intelligence is out to lunch or doing something else. And when you focus on a goal, he had a goal. He was focused. Let's see how long he sits there. Goals are powerful, but reality doesn't always match what your goals are. There's the expectation, and then there's the reality. Life is sometimes a little uneven and rough, but if you maintain clarity as to the goal, then you can deal with the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs. Here's a nice image I like a lot. Under magnification, microscopic magnification, here's what embroidery looks like. And it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you take away the magnification, then it makes a lot of sense. So this is when we're going through life and we're really up close and really attached to this event and that event, and somebody said something, did something, or didn't do something or something. And we don't get the big picture. But if you can learn to be patient and a little detached and a little patient, you can eventually maybe get a sense of the pattern, the big picture of things. That's called maturity. A child is on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's moment to moment. They got to get that, whatever that thing is. And if they don't get it, make some noise or throw a tantrum or scream or whatever. And as soon as they get the thing, shortly they're on to the next thing. Yes. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I see it all the time. So. The mature person that can manage their emotion well, that's a sign of the maturity. They're quite willing to contemplate the big picture. Although they may not understand the big picture yet, there's a Krishna's hand in all things, especially with his devotees, but even the non-devotees. There's a Krishna's hand in all things. And there's some mercy of Krishna here that I don't see. I see this. I see the chaos. I see that it doesn't make any sense to me picture. And then after some time, some higher purpose or plan. So, that's the second key. Introspection. What are we able to control? You introspect, and there's not a whole lot we can control, except, how you exercise your free will. Not the things you can't control. Key 4, power moving forward. We're going to go back and look at these 4 keys at the end, just so it'll help you with the last exercise. Path of moving forward. You can't move forward if your anchor's down. So something that helps you move forward is association with people who are moving forward. And another thing that helps you move forward is don't take quantum unsustainable leaps forward, take little steps forward every day. Incremental steps to trust yourself and to trust others. Because one of the things with negative emotion says, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, it's too big and I'm too small. And, etc. One can get into that space and one disempowers oneself. But there's a way to empower yourself. And that's, what's something you can do. One devotee named Ikshvaku Prabhu, we're trying to get him to come again. He has established we'll give a little background. He grew up in Peru, and he got married and went and did his studies in Australia, became a social worker for some 10, 12, 15 years, something like that, and then different degrees in different fields. And then with his family, he moved to Mayapur, and he's established a counseling division or department or whatever. Now he travels around the world. And he traveled in the United States, and hopefully he'll come again, to give seminars on how to do counseling. And one of the things that he has helped us to understand is, know your limits. Your people they need professional help, don't step in. when someone is drowning and you're not an expert swimmer, don't try to save them with good intention. You might drown too. He tells a little story about that when he was a kid. He and his brother tried to save somebody and they nearly drowned because the person was panicked, and as soon as they came near him, they pushed them down. You know. But one of the things in counseling is encourage somebody, well, you know, when have you had a good time? What did it feel like? And if they can go there instead of just being in a negative zone, then, you know, what's something that you feel that you can do? And yeah, it's great, I'll support you doing that, something you can do, and let's do it together. And so you do that little something and then you celebrate, yay, fantastic. Now what's another little something you can do? So get out of that negative emotion zone, and a little step, incremental step that you can, yeah, I'm not a failure. I'm not a useless person. Jeez. This is a nice topic. Sharing. Some of you have children. I get mail from some of your children, or some of the other devotees from other places' children. So one girl who finished her undergrad from a really good family, finished her studies, and she started entering into a depression zone. And you know, she wrote a letter that sounded like she didn't use the word, but I'm headed for a depression letter. I'm a failure, everything for the last 2 years, everything I've touched, career, education, considering marriage, you know, everything I touch turns to sawdust. Within the letter was a key, it was this one, something that she really liked. So I said, why don't you do the thing that you really like? I mean, we had some exchanges back and forth, but the essence of it was, and she said, yeah, and you know, the cloud moved, and it's no longer a stormy day, because I was stuck, because I was thinking, I have to make lots of money. And you know, the thing that makes lots of money, I really didn't like doing those things that make lots of money. Although I would probably do it, but you know, I wouldn't be happy. And I knew I wouldn't be happy, so I couldn't, I was stuck. But there's some things it's not a bad standard of living, it's not, so I said, look, you don't have to do that for the rest of your life, but do something that you like, and watch, more doors will open, and you know, all kinds of opportunities will arise, because you're a bright young person. You know, so the next letter was, storm's over. Yeah, in retrospect, I was kind of heading for depression. This, you know, nice devotee. So we need these skills to help people that are dear to us, or we may need to help ourselves in these ways. So that's part of the exercise at the end. Incremental steps in doing something positive for yourself, incremental steps in applying mantra meditation to your life. Don't make promises to improve that you can't keep. It will only exacerbate feeling of failure. Okay. So that's a summary of part 3. Now we're about to conclude. And this is real fast. So there are these 3 areas. Not that you have to have had a bout of depression, but you may know someone that had been headed towards one, like I just shared with you one. Or anger, you may know some people. You may be one of those people. You may know people that are, like they just get triggered by anger and they lose it. And they know it's not good, but they continue to get triggered by anger and they lose it. Or anxiety. Or it could be yourself, any one of these 3 things. So, Fundamental causes of anxiety. This is, an hour and a half and 3 minutes. Misalignment between outer reality and our inner expectations. That's the mind. Misalignment between inner expectations and inner self. Misalignment. Remember that the 3 doors, body, mind, and heart. So we need alignment with reality, including physical, but emotional. And goals that are worthy of you. This is a Viktor Frankl idea. That gives you strength. Strive for a goal that's worthy of you. It may be a little distant, that's okay. Take little steps to get that, which is a goal that's worthy. All forms of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So read Prabhupada's books, and that's going to help you. In short. Because the feeling of incompleteness has something to do with not understanding our relationship with the complete whole. And finally, this is, hearing. Simply by giving oral perception, oral reception to this Vedic sound, should be sound singular, the feeling for loving devotional service to the Supreme sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So this is something that we should all be doing anyway, that is reading and hearing. Hearing recorded lectures of our founder Acharya, or our spiritual masters, or our guides, or people that we look up to in our spiritual lives. Reading Prabhupada's books, chanting in kirtan and chanting attentively. So now we're ready for a breakout group. You gonna do the MC part? Sure, click on the one.
One divided in 3 groups.
Go, you take it away. He's your facilitator now. I'm going to go to sleep.
Okay, so as Maharaj said, we will divide in 3 groups, and each group will take one of the element, like either depression, anger, or anxiety. So among the group members, they will discuss their thoughts. So there are 2 aspects to that. One is how you felt at that time, and the second part is going forward, how you want to handle it, right? How you want to improve the situation. So we'll divide in 3 groups. You can choose which group you want to be in, depression or anger or anxiety. So which you experience yourself or you hear somebody else experience it. And we'll have 3 places. So 3 groups move to 3 different places. One group will stay here. One group will go to the overflow zone in the downstairs, a few steps down, and one group will go to the temple room. So we'll go in 3 places. So you have 5 minutes to divide in 3 groups and go to your respective places.
Then
So
before you divide, take a look at what the questions are. A little assistance, if you don't mind. Each group needs a facilitator that can keep everybody on topic. Because the tendency is blah, 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 and the next thing you know, you're not on topic anymore. So somebody that's the facilitator, take a picture of it, and your facilitator can make sure everyone stays on topic. And the other is there's a recorder, someone that's like getting the summary essence of what your discussions are. And then here's the discussions on the 2 topics. From the methods we have learned today, which method or methods do you feel most suitable for you when addressing this type? That type is bring to memory a specific angry, anxious, or depression experience you or someone dear to you has been through. And then based upon that, your recollection of that negative emotion of one of those three categories. What methods will help you overcome, or help you help others dear to you overcome that, or address that negative emotion? And why have you selected those? And then the next one is tomorrow we're going to do. Next week, next month. Application part. Questions? What we're going to do next? Everyone's clear.
Can you see the slide that shows the 4 keys?
See the what?
The 4 keys slide.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, there. You may want to take a picture of this for your discussion group purpose. And do you know everybody? You want to identify who the facilitator should be once they select themselves? Or you want to just have them decide, or?
I guess we'll have them decide.
Okay, you better monitor it. Because they could take a half an hour deciding.
No, so we want to keep it short, right? So we want to quickly divide in 3 groups, and each group select their one facilitator who will be noting down the key points and facilitating everybody to stay on the topic. And then, what is the 10-15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minimum.
And then 10 minutes to come back and discuss.
Yeah. You may need more than 15. And I don't know why we started so late, but here we are.
Okay, so if we can quickly divide in 3 groups based on your choice. So one group can stay here. Let's say, okay, anger stays here. So they need more space. Anxiety goes in temple room.
Good place for it.
Depression goes in the overflow zone.
How about all 3?
You have to do your cloning to go in all 3.
You want to go with the
So 8:55 if you start, 9:10 we want to come back here. Anger, come here in the middle Everybody quickly, not talking now, we can talk here. So anger can come here, the people who will participate in the negative emotion of anger. Which is this anger? Husband and wife could not stay in the same group, so they can they should try to divide, split in different negatives. Who is the anger is the soul area.
So when we should go there,
Basically come here.
anger zone is there?
Yeah.
it's really hot in here.
Are you going to buy the white?
So husband wife try to go in different groups, different type of We have 2 more minutes. Very good. We have 2 more minutes. Then we will go on. Start discussing. Okay. So for anger, I want 1 nomination for the facilitator.
Him. Prabhu. Really not Prabhu.
Okay, sit down.
No,
Everybody just sit down.
he's sitting here, small ticket.
Depression is over. Go down. Go down. You sit down. Okay. Hamsanita Prabhu is the facilitator for this group.
Okay.
So there is a paper pen. Please keep them on track. Try to come up with what their previous experience is, and based on those 4 keys, how to utilize OBS, silent quit. And the second part is going forward, how we want to overcome it, what we want to apply. Mataji, come with us. From which group are you? We are doing something.
Anyone who can relate one situation which we can discuss. Either not personally or some other circumstance. Have you seen any person who is
I'll say. I think one time, like when I was driving cars and somebody was not happy, I might have also made a mistake. But he was so angry at me, I was really get scared. And I just started shouting. Like, he was very, very angry. And also that also, it was like a single game, so also I was starting, I was also so but then I realized I need to get out of my so I accepted it, but there is mistake my bad, I put it out.
tell me when you're inside school.
Otherwise it can be what can happen, right? Yeah, so I think might be acceptance. I was able to get out. No, like one situation.
Every summer there's you have to identify a situation for kids, whether you are angry or some other person.
Like how often do you get angry and what?
Four principles. How can you use this?
Firstly, you have to kind of discuss the situation when you go to
Okay, I'll talk about any other So, whenever I expect something from somebody and that doesn't happen, it is like when you're friends with somebody or you're your mom and dad and you're related to somebody, they're like, you expect people to do something they don't do, that pisses me off. Like, for example, I expect my colleague to be a team and finish something with me and then she doesn't do, I get pissed off because we're not able to deliver this. So, small things, but then they blow up into one big picture and you actually when expectations are met,
well, I don't, they change the timing a little bit every year. There's 2
so
summer
one thing that
periods.
helped me overcome
Naperville and Center Naperville.
because expectations are not met and like, it made me angry, but also you have to focus on what the problem is and not like make it personal against so like accepting what the problem is and identifying what's the goal. So what do you want to do in this situation? What is the goal of this? Because if you get angry at each other, it's like you're this person fighting against each other. But the goal is to solve this problem. There's a problem on the table. You have to come out of this. Getting angry is not going to solve the problem, right? So you're not actually moving forward. You're stuck there. Because you're angry.
One share.
And they also have one during the after there, you have 2.
Similar to what we on the last day of the this one and what happened was I was just seeing this person change the day. I was seeing this person come extremely fast. I could see him side of them. So I thought, okay, he's coming really fast. So I just just knew the name, and it so happened that he decided to move. So then I know the name, and he comes here. And he's thinking of because I could see him inside the really good. So then I started taking the same thing from this guy. So I slowed down, and he comes parallel to me, and he's looking at me, and I go right here. He got to make it right. So he's like so upset. He's not even like me. He's just abusing and abusing.
But it's the same guy, same guy.
And then I just said, okay, this is not going anywhere. He's following me. So I slowed down to an extent that he can. This is a finish. And then he slows down even more. So I slowed down even more. I almost made the stand still, but luckily there were no vehicles behind me, so I was like really slow. But this guy is like still, he's almost, he went ahead because I had slowed down. And then he almost stopped on the field. I said, okay, it's not working, I have to keep going. Then I just kept driving and then he throws something. I don't know what. Yeah, when he took the side of the rental car, I was more worried about the rental car. I noted his number plate and what I wanted. Anyway, the point was, I really didn't know the right situation. How to do this, because that was like uncontrollable and I don't think apologizing would have been. How we could have apologized for
He like stopped, right? So when he tried to go there, he was thinking only how he started, he was finding like that. And I was pointing at him.
It's just for the kids.
And I said, let's go to talk. So I was, but then I realized that this guy is saying, okay, you leave me. So, but then I realized that I'm just making it worse. So I accepted that I am mad right now. So instead of saying, so, yeah.
And where is this temple?
Our side, right? How you are
Safety was the primary
not the other person, but what you did. Kind of so it's acceptance or what are all the other things
Acceptance is moving forward.
For me, safety was the primary concern. And then I thought, what can I do about it? I noted his number plate and all, but I was going to India the next morning. I didn't have time to complain. The thing is, sometimes
I think when you see this acceptance, moving forward, introspection, like, see also, so I think it's all combination.
usually combination.
yeah, luckily nothing happened there. Just completing the story.
Like in a highway situation, you don't have much time to do
Yes.
communication. But in real life situation, like somebody gets angry, your wife gets angry, your children get angry, they throw things on the table, all of a sudden you are not controlling the emotion, they're angry at you. And that time you just react. What he says is power of acceptance, introspection doesn't happen. You just go back and blow up. And the closer you are to the family, the more we do that. And now that's where you have more time to do this kind of thing. Because you can be mad at your wife or mad at your son or something. I've seen mother getting mad and snap the child, and then after maybe a couple of hours she says, oh, I should do that. And then she will go and say sorry and try to help. But this is very much applicable to that kind of situation, where in traffic situation, normally we don't run into the communication and all that.
Emotions are not there also.
And so what he's saying is very true. On the psychological basis, first the traffic situation, whose problem was there? The guy may be fighting with his wife and he just blew at you.
Right. That's right.
But in our situation, what happens? Swamiji said very simple, old tape comes back. When some 3 days ago he did the same thing and now he's doing the same thing. And so what he says that your perception, preconceived concept and all that, but all you can do is drop it down by introspection. You have to go back and sit down and say, did I do the right thing? Was that my expectation too much or something? And last thing is, what is his intelligence? Like not small child, like he throws things away, you don't get mad. very little boy, like 2 years old, he throws and puts all kinds of things, you don't get mad. But same thing, if your wife did that, you go mad. Why? Because your expectations are different. With child, you have no expectation. So what he is saying is the first is acceptance. Acceptance now. Very interesting thing on acceptance that we overexpress. My wife should be like Sita, or my wife should be this and the pain. So over expectation can get you into trouble. Other thing is, do you understand that? What's that problem? So this is what I think is a really real life topics is like child getting mad, father getting mad. And I'll stop by after one story. I have read a lot of things on psychology. What they are saying is one boss got mad at somebody. And his secretary, he just got mad at his secretary because somebody, his boss got mad at him in a meeting. The secretary got the blame for it, and he got mad at secretary. Secretary went home. And there was a child, she got mad at the child. It's like a chain reaction coming out. Then the child got mad, and the cat was going in. And cat was trying to be nice to child, and child, because she beat the child kicked the cat. So he said, cat has nothing to do with it. This is the chain reaction of it. And how do you get out of it is by, you have to do analyze, introspection. Whose problem was that? It's really his boss's problem, but he transferred it all to cat.
Yeah. And I think it's also what's your goal. Like if your goal is to be peaceful and focus more on it, then you just.
No, the real goal should be really what he is saying. And I think when you think of it, why would you let other people control you?
2 times.
The real goal is like Buddha and all that. Why Angulimal doesn't disturb him? For us, little man disturbs us. Why? Because your goal is very short.
Most of the time we will not be able to do it ourselves when we are in that state. We need external help, whatever that might be.
You need to be able to talk to somebody in confidence.
So we need somebody who really we trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also in confidence too. You can't, like, when you're younger, you can't be your friend. When you're older, you can't be, I don't know.
But I feel like balanced nutrition really helps people who are in depression. Because a lot of the time when people are in depression, they don't want to cook. They go for very refined, easy food. They go for comfort food, very sugary food, and that can actually make the situation even worse. So making sure you're feeding, especially your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your adrenal gland, because a lot of the time when someone has depression, they have depression because they're in such adrenal fatigue that they can't get themselves to get up and going. All they want to do is just stay in bed and just shut down. So addressing nutritional deficiencies can be a big factor, not the only factor, but a big factor into helping depression. Especially in Michigan where we have like out of 6 months out of the year, we don't have any sunshine, either like sun lamps. Sun lamps, yes, vitamin D. Sun lamps have really helped kids in schools. So just knowing that it's not all about the emotion, even though the emotion is so overwhelming, and addressing what other factors are causing this.
And another thing I want to add to that is that, expanding on that, is also understanding what we're going through. So for me, it was like trying to understand how the brain works and using my logical side versus artistic side, and going back and forth with those during the day, so I can keep myself outside and not get engulfed in negative emotions.
So it's like your power of goals. You have something goal, and you are more of goal oriented than keeping our emotions away and all.
It's staying busy. I've also read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's also a book called Stop Worrying, Stop Living. It's very important. But basically it says keeping busy allows you to just mind focus away from negative thoughts.
you're like hiding yourself and not feeling like yourself. How did it affect you? What is one of the methods that you used in order to?
Also, Maharaj said like we have to accept the things. He showed the picture, right, like winter and spring. So likewise, like in our life too, we will be having ups and downs. So we have to have some faith, like God, Krishna. We have to accept, and we will be like keep going and like move onwards.
What for me personally, what really helped is like the picture like Maharaj showed, the ear one. Like I've seen that picture before.
What's their topic?
So in that it said ear is stronger than eye.
And for me to accept that, I cannot even make goals for them. So in that case, you have to just accept what the kids are doing, and you have to pay for it.
There is two things here. When we decide to move forward, we are trying to just move forward with some of our intelligence, some of our acceptance and rational intelligence, and making efforts. Not accepting and moving forward without any goal, without any efforts. So our moving forward should involve the efforts as well as acceptance as well as efforts to move forward with some.
You have to first accept it, make goals, and and then make efforts on your goals. Just cannot sit on your goals. You have to move forward with your goals to accept the situation, and then only you can
So all
satisfy.
four powers are really
All
connected
four
to
powers
each
are
other.
connected with each other. You cannot choose one. You cannot choose one. You have to choose all four to
If you want to move forward.
move forward.
Or you say accept and move forward. I don't create a goal, but then
Then it turns out again it will come and hit you somewhere around. It will go around and come and hit you back because you did not really work on it. You did not close the chapter. You just accepted it and you moved on. That is not closing a chapter. You have to, any situation, you have to close a chapter to get that satisfaction that you can move on. If you do not close a chapter and you just leave it in half, oh, you know what, I just accept it, whatever it is. And then again, it will turn around. It will go around and it will come and hit you on your head so hard that it will get worse than before. So that is why you need all four things.
So you're not making use of your physical capabilities, your mental capabilities, your emotional capabilities, intelligence, as well as surrender or your acceptance that yes, the divine power is supporting me on my efforts, on my
Situations in our life where we were hiding in a shallow situations, we must plan our way to how is there any good situation?
something else, you are already tense, and then something happens against your will. What it is like I would look at it like a three modes of material nature. When we are in a mode of ignorance, anger will surely overcome us. We don't always think about what we came with and what we are going to take with us. Nothing we came with and nothing we are going to take. So if you are not get the attachment away from you, then you should be able to control it. That is expecting about the internally you feel that way. At that point you say, well, this mode of ignorance is going to bother me. Let's get calm down. Let's not think about it, then you will think right. And then you will resolve it. Yeah, it's like that. Also moving forward. We are not stuck there.
Just to also like give back because we are hurt by them and then we get angry that we want to like do something about it because we feel like so helpless, like oh my god, I did this.
No, it's a power struggle. You want to say that I'm also powerful.
Okay, did we discuss the second question? Going forward, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Right, so quickly, 3 minutes.
I think we talked.
Yeah,
You can take each situation. Prabhuji, you can say, what you will do in future.
Yeah, what you do?
In your situation.
Whatever you decide. I think it was already brilliant. I don't know if maybe some that situation.
Mataji, you can
I think main thing to do is like focus on what the problem is. Identify what we can do, like look at the goals, actions going what's in front of you, and then don't be stuck being angry with it. You gotta introspect the situation, find a solution, and then move forward. Yeah, all four. Like literally, like first identify the goal of what it is.
No, because when you are very angry.
Like why are you angry? That's
And
the
the
first
power of
question you
moving
should ask
forward.
yourself. Why are you angry? So what's the problem? Whatever.
To let it go.
Yeah.
And sometimes when ego is crushed, then you get very angry. Somebody like trying to, or sometimes when he's scared to, then you get angry. Like somebody trying to escape, you just also trying to get ego. Only chant Hare Krishna.
Going back to Prabhuji's point, attachment.
I am superior position.
Yeah.
If you think that one, why should I my right of way? Why somebody else getting it? So that is the point. The attachment to the my position. But if you can level out with the person, then you have less chance.
So introspecting, understand the real position. So you are introspecting.
We go down, humble position, then we come down.
Right, I guess
It's a common goal of all this.
I guess for the second part, going forward, that's where the power of goals is more important. Right? That what is my real goal going forward, like as a long term, what is my goal? We want to progress in Krishna consciousness without getting too much entangled into the bodily conceptions of life, without getting affected by these dualities of life. So keeping the long-term goal in the forefront, moving forward, right? So that is goal, right? My long-term goal is to have a better relationship with Krishna, peaceful life, and with whom I'm getting angry. What is my long-term goal with them? They also have a relationship with Krishna, and I need to serve them so that they can also progress towards Krishna and I can also progress towards Krishna. Right? So for the second part of the thing, going forward, where the power of goals is more important, seeing the long-term goal.
Yeah, sometimes also when you see somebody angry, it's like what Prabhu said, you can see how the more interesting
For the
somebody
first part, power of acceptance is more important. Okay, I have expectation from you. Going forward, power of goals is going to help you.
Learn tolerance.
Okay, so who is going to come up? Prabhu, you are going to come up or Aishwarya Mataji is going to come up? So you should be ready there, Mataji. I'm going to call her. We can take our seats. I'm going to bring other groups also.
Now you need to accept it.
Ultimate goal should be first chapter of Gita or second chapter.
We have a lot of notes. Try to summarize what you do.
Growth and all that should not disturb you, right? Because you are going with
Once we go,
when we deal with the word, we deal with, but when we sit in a lecture, we kind of accept it.
it's a mode. The more ignorance you dominate, you're going to get angry. So we have to change the mode. The mode of goodness is
आप बात नहीं कर रहे हो?
The mode change होगा तो कुछ नहीं होगा.
More chanting.
I mean, there are people who one was the angry driver.
Grief brings all the things to the next accepting and getting shy, you can explain a little bit more grief
That's what it's the most difficult.
But Roji, ahead.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, please everybody quickly come up. It's getting a little late, so if everybody can come quickly, settle down, sit on your places. And if the 3 group facilitators can come forward. So Aishwarya Mataji. So is Madhvilata Mataji or Ravi Shankar? Yeah, Ravi Shankar Prabhu. And Leelavati Mataji. So Aishwarya Mataji, Leelavati Mataji and Ravi Shankar Prabhu, if you 3 can come forward. Okay, so first we'll start with anger. The negative emotion of anger.
Is everyone here? Yes,
Matas give them 2 minutes. So everybody please come forward.
Slides.
Matas, you also move forward. Everybody please come forward. Everybody please come quickly. Very good. Very good. Please come forward. You can talk for people.
Hare Krishna everyone. So we discussed a lot about anger from everybody's past experiences and what we can do moving forward. So talking about experiences, we realize there are some situations where we get angry, like we talked about situations where we have this angry driver on the road, but we are also concerned about safety. And then there were situations where you are related to somebody and then you have a lot of expectations from them. And these expectations also lead to anger. And then these are situations we kind of feel helpless and we want to do the right thing. But then thinking about it, we are always like stuck in that situation. So from everybody's experiences, what helped them really in those situations was like that quick power of introspection, identifying what the goal is and what the problem is at hand, and also accepting that they're angry and then moving forward from that place. So some of the main things that kind of was brought up is that attachment causes a lot of anger because and also ignorance causes a lot of anger. The emotion kind of like takes over you and you're like stuck in the situation and you're not able to move forward. So anger is also like a chain reaction. It's kind of like a mirror that when a person gets angry, we just want to reflect back the same emotion and the same way. And so accepting these things that we are angry at these people and we want to like think, why are we angry? Ask ourselves questions like, what is the problem at hand? What is the goal? So what can I do better at this situation? Asking questions like, is this the right thing to do? Is my behavior or is my reaction the right way to answer this or like right way to respond to this person? So when you ask yourselves that question, you technically identify the goal, look at what the goal is, and also you start introspecting the situation. What is the problem at hand? And understand what relationship this person has with you. And is that kind of like more important than becoming angry? And accept and move forward. Don't be stuck in the place. No, you move on to the next thing. So in the future goals, we identify that this can lead us to be a humble person. It can take us to a humble position if we follow all this. And it will lead us to ask more questions to ourselves. And also it will want us to establish a relationship with Krishna. Like that is the main goal. Identifying the goal that relationship with Krishna is the main thing. And also what relationship is the person you are angry at is serving, like what relationship is that person who you are angry at is having with Krishna. Identify that relationship and learn to tolerate. And pausing and thinking is also one of the difficult things that we identified in future goals, but doing that will kind of like help us accept that, hey, we're angry in this situation and then we want to like introspect and move forward from there. So that's what we discussed.
Depression.
Hare Krishna, our group we discussed about the depression. So everybody in our life we go through a phase. Everybody said that we went through a phase of depression where their situations are not out of our control. What we want we may not have at that time, and the emotions are so overwhelming that we don't know what to do. Sometimes it may do something that we may harm ourselves or we may harm our dear ones. So what was the things, that's how we identified each of us, what was the phase when we went through, and also like what would really help us was like somebody said that we need somebody whom we can trust, or when we have a depression, it is not that sometimes we may identify it. If we have somebody who can help us or identify it, and also that person should be, they said in the group it came out, it should be trustworthy person. And also one Mataji said that having faith in Krishna, what is the power, some Prabhu said that the power of goal helped him go towards the depression, overcome the depression. And also the couple of Mataji said the power of association and power of like holy name when things were going up and down. So was the things which really helped them even to calm them down. The holy name has helped them to calm them down, even to look or introspect what's going on or what help if I need to take. So one thing came up was like look for a trustworthy person and always have a positivity in life. Look at the bigger picture, the embroidery one, look at the bigger picture, and it is something is like a temporary, and what we learned is like things might be, this situation may pass through. So can we look at the bigger picture? That was what our group discussed. Thank you.
We have Ravi Shankar Prabhu to come up for the negative feeling of negative thoughts of anxiety.
He doesn't look like he's anxiety.
He may give anxiety to others.
So, are you going to take that? You give anxiety.
I hope my group can speak to it in case of anything. I actually give any anxieties. But yeah, so we started a conversation with having a common understanding of what anxiety is. And having a slight little anxiety is acceptable. But overthinking on something which can take you to an anxious state where it's difficult to manage, that's where the problem starts. And that's where the concern is. So we wanted to make sure that we are focusing on the concern part and not the regular acceptable anxiety. So we spent a little time on recapping about the presentation that we gave, a couple of slides that really stand out, so that our discussion is flowing into the direction where we wanted to get to the questions. The first question that we had was what is the method that you learned today, and which are the methods that you want to focus on. Our discussion was started with all the four principal keys, and accepting was the first thing before moving anything forward. Once you accept it, you do some, make a goal. Now, goal is individual goal, how to do that anxiety, and that goal could be any level of goal that you're making it, or accept it as is, and this is what it is. I am the way I am, or let other people deal with it. I move forward. But if I make a goal, how do I move that into a right direction? Doing some introspection and then moving forward with the goal and the efforts. Making best use of my physical capabilities, the intellectual capabilities, the emotional way of managing how the stress is, and utilizing all that efforts and using those efforts and believing that if I'm moving the right direction with that goal, the divine power of Krishna is going to support me to move forward with that goal. That's where we are trying to integrate our 4 key principles into our question 1 and moving on to the question 2. What is the best method to utilize in future? And how might you plan to implement the principles you've learned? So the integration of all those principles, we took it, and one of the key points that came out of that discussion, particularly on the question 2, is how to deal with that in future, is rather than focusing on the negatives, what I don't have, focus on that, appreciate what we have, and that deals with dealing with our negative emotions way more. One of the funny examples that came up from the devotee is with a lot of stress and anxieties, I'm losing my hair. My hair is growing great, but another devotee said, well, if your hair is graying, it's still better than not losing the hair. So that's a positive
That's how you know whether someone has anxiety or not.
Well, that's how if you start craving about my hair is going gray, think about it that you still have gray hair. Unlike me, whose hairline is receding every day. But that's what our key takeaway for question 2 for next.
Out of those 4 key, what is that key group, which is the?
We actually try to integrate that because it's a flow by accepting. So individually, people gave the thoughts about the keys, but as a group, we integrated those 4 keys from accepting to goal to introspection and moving forward. One of the couple of slides that were mentioned about is how the flow, one of the slide Maharaj had starting the thoughts and emotions and leading to the depression. The sooner it gets controlled, the better it is, and catch it at the anxious stage rather than getting into the depression. So thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
A little different evening together. So, any summary points? I'm just going to summarize it. Off we go. (9:32), so I'm not going to say much, but we have our 2-3 thoughts. Yeah, I need a cap. We have our community here, and the community is made up of families. So a good place that you know the saying, charity begins at home. And so begin these principles in your own life and in the immediate family that you're with, because, you know, for obvious reasons, without going into the because. So, and then in our Sangha amongst ourselves, the groups of people that come together here in this area, And then we can model that for the people and consciously think of strategies of how we can make that connection with other people. I've been advocating, and I'm going to continue to, as long as you continue to invite me here, you're going to hear it, so get used to it. We have to connect with the mission of our founder Acharya, and we're doing some good things, and there's room for improvement in those good things that we're doing, and there's a whole bunch of things that we're specifically, the rest of the population here, that's not non-resident Indian population. We need to have a strategy to reach those people. This is very practical. This is one of many very practical. But somehow or other, it's part of the compassion of Vaishnavism. And one of the things that will help is we're modeling the character of a Vaishnava. And the character of a Vaishnava is, we're in this place of duality like others, and we have a way of life, not just a philosophy that we don't live by, but we have a way of life that enables us to rise above duality. And we model that in ourselves, in our homes, in our community. So when people come into our home or into our lives or into our community, they go, wow, I like this. It's the Acharya principle in real simple terms. You don't have to be like, a world Acharya. You can be a personal Acharya. You can be one who, by example, shows others, here's how you live in the world of duality, and you have some internal ballast that gives you strength and conviction and courage and the capacity to deal with the duality, the negative of this world, because it's abundant by design, and it's not going to change. Just because you're a nice devotee is not going to change. But how you address yourself to that can change. The inside can change. And you can then attract the hearts and the minds of people that also want something that's very genuine. I'm looking at the life of Srila Prabhupada, it's entered into my heart that he cared very, very, very much about others should become happy. I'm just giving a little backdrop to all of what we just did, but Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu is a phrase that Prabhupada would speak. Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu. Everyone should be happy. So you're not going to have that, it's a nice sounding phrase, but you're not going to have it in your heart unless you're happy. And the happy is a transcendental happy, not the negative emotions stopped. Because they're the place of duality. There's going to be things you like and things you don't like. It's just the way it is. And how you address yourself to that, that's the challenge. Not just so that you can be happy, but so that you can make others happy. You can be connected to Krishna and our disciplic succession and be part of that mission of our founder Acharya and the previous Acharyas. Receive that gift and then give that gift. That's our life. So that's something that inspires me to come all the way here to Flint, Michigan and do this, and over there in Grand Rapids. It's very practical. Take the message and apply it in a way that makes sense to you according to your nature and your capacity and your circumstances of life. So we can be nice models of Bhagavad Gita's message. Matra Sarshasta Konteya Hitoshna Sukadukana Agamapai Nitya Stang Tatiksha. And then keep going. Besides Tatiksha, you go to transcendence. Connect with Krishna. So, 9:40. I'm gonna head back. And, I don't know, you took prasadam already. That's why it started late. That's why it started late. So, I have some Mahaprasad, and I'm going to distribute some Mahaprasad on my way out the door. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.